Hello and welcome back to day 2 of creating a studio together. It's Friday, January 15th, and you may be thinking there isn't much time in the day or the week to make time for creating a studio, but I'm here to show you there really is. So if you're tuning in, you've made 10 minutes of time to devote to yourself and to this idea of a concept of creating a studio, creating a space in your life for you, because that's what it's really about. It's about creating space and time for you. So here I am. I'm going to go over some of the things we touched on last week in our first video, just to remind us where we're at and what gets in my way. So maybe you could think about what gets in your way when you think of, I'd like to do that someday, but there's always this other thing pulling at my time and attention and needs. So here are the things that stand in my way. I have lots of excuses. So excuses here are, number one, I have no time. But as you can see, I've made time in my life to do this. And space in my life. I have no space in this house that I live in, and yet here I am trying to carve out the tiniest of spaces and make this work so I can devote minutes, maybe hours, hopefully, a week on me and my art making and my writing and the things that make me happy. So this really is about finding your happiness, finding your joy, and making that time for those things in your life. So I also think of this as clearing away the clutter, because when I think of those things in making my life happy, I think about getting rid of the clutter in my life. So we're going to be focusing on that in the coming days and weeks as well. Okay, so first, my biggest excuse is I have no time. There's no time left over for me or for art making or for writing or for music or whatever it is that I want more time in my life for. I have no space. I have no space. Well, the reason I don't have much space is because I have it filled with a lot of junk. So if I got rid of that junk or took care of that junk, maybe I'd have a little more space. And number 3, someday I'll get to that. Last week I shared, someday I dreamed of having a barn and I could take that barn and make it into a really cool studio. And I realized I'm probably not gonna buy a farm anytime soon, and I'm probably not gonna retire on a farm either. I'm either gonna be where I'm at or I'm gonna be somewhere else. And the idea of having a farm like I did when I was a kid, I'm gonna have to let go. And I can hold on to that dream and think about that and want that and desire that. But if I am going to get started now, I can't wait for that one day when I'll have the perfect space, which to me would be an old renovated barn. So I'm going to get started now, and I'm going to let go of that someday, because today is the day. We don't have time to wait for that dream that's out there, that more space. We've got to make it. And then number 4, I'm good at more excuses. So I go back to the top and I just say, no time, no space, someday I'll get to it. And I just make more and more excuses that stand in my way. So, no more excuses. 2021 is the year. It's the year I'm going to create that space in my life. I'm going to make more art, and I made more art, I have to tell you, in 2020 than I ever dreamed I'd make that much art in my life. And I think 2021 is going to be an even greater year for art making. So I've set that intention, I've set that bar high, and I know all I need is 10 minutes of time each week to devote. And I hope much more than that. But in 10 minutes of time, I'm going to create this space week by week and help you do that in the making as well. Last week I said, don't go out and buy anything. You might have everything you need on hand, or you will have everything you need on hand. And then I realized some people out there might want a new desk, or might want a different setup, or you might need a board and you don't have a board. So if there is something you need, by all means, get it. But what I really want to encourage you to do is look at what you have in your life already. And one of the things that I've been thinking about lately is how so many things in my life make me unhappy. And I'm just okay with that. For instance, I'll give an example. The other night I was looking for a movie to watch. I wasn't tired. I was going to be staying up kind of late. And I decided there's an actor I like in certain movies. And I thought, well, maybe this is good. Maybe this will be a good movie. And there was a narrator. And sometimes I like a movie that has a narrator telling some of the story. And the movie really tried to be funny and it really tried to work. And the movie was terrible. And I decided this person that I'm watching, this actor that I'm watching, is just not, I'm not interested in watching him in romance comedies. It just doesn't work. He's a fantastic actor and he knows what he's good at. But this movie is terrible, and I kept watching it, hoping maybe it would get better. Never did. And I didn't finish it. I fell asleep. And I am not going to go back and waste my time on the rest of that movie. I'm just not going to do it. Now, had this been a year or two ago, I would have watched that movie because I would have just thought, well, I committed to it. I'm going to do it. So in saying that, I want to encourage you to not waste time on the things that don't make you happy. And it applies to this space because in this space you're going to create, in this tiny studio, I really want to encourage you to put only the things that are functional and that make you happy. And an example of that is in my kitchen. I have a pan and I hate it. Things stick to it, things burn because of the pan. It's sold and marketed as this really great pan, nothing sticks to it, nothing burns. And the coating on the bottom of the pan, the inside of the pan, has worn away. And so everything sticks, everything burns, and we hate this pan. I, in particular, do not like this pan. It is just, does not cause me any joy, and it causes me nothing but complaints every time I use it. So, in thinking about things that bring me happiness, this pan has no room in my life. So the pan now is gone, and I am going to use only things that make me happy. And if I start thinking like that, then the space and the time in my life open up. So now I have this new pan, nothing sticks to it, nothing burns. It even has a little pour spout for the grease. And my time in the kitchen is so much happier and so contained because this pan is that great. So in thinking about your studio, I want you to think like that. Think about what going into the space will make you happy. And what do you need in this space? And I ask you, encourage you to find those things in your home and in your own space. So today, here's what I've done. I have these sawhorses. They're plastic. They fold up. They were a great purchase. I purchased them about 17 years ago when I opened a public studio. And they have been used time and time again. When I closed my studio many, many years ago, brought them home. My husband uses them for painting, for sawing, for everything. I use them for painting and sawing, and sometimes on projects in the house. We don't have a garage, so they've been stored outside. So it was kind of not much fun cleaning them up to bring them in for the studio here. So you can see 3 foot of space does not give me any space to work with, but I'm gonna make it happen. So I've got this little space, and it's just really enough space to put the sawhorses together. Nice thing about these sawhorses, they've got this little shelf there that folds up when I fold them up. But I know the space is going to be pretty limited. When I went searching for boards to use as my art tabletop, the perfect size boards, which were cut to about 18 inches wide or 20 inches wide, were 4 feet long, and my space is just over 3 feet. So that wasn't going to work. So what I showed last week is this piece of masonite or a big, huge clipboard or drawing board. I'm going to use that sometimes. So I can add it here. I can clip my art down. I can stack things on there. It's pretty stable. I'm not going to stack a lot on it. I wouldn't stack heavy art books on it, but it's going to work. I can take it away as I need to if I have things clipped to it. Remember, you can use a small clipboard. If you don't have a small clipboard, I think I own about 40 of them. So ask for one. I will find you one. I also found this board. Again, not the ideal size, but it is about the same size as that drawing board. Put it up there. That is much more stable. So that's probably what I'm going to go with today. Got a stable drawing or a stable board there. I know that I can put things on it and it's going to pretty much work for me. The only complication with my setup here is that I can't get very close with a stool or a chair because these sawhorses are out so far. So I can't get anything underneath it. However, if I had more space and could move my sawhorses apart, I could get a chair under there, but that's okay. I realize I'm going to sometimes use an easel on top of my table here, and sometimes I'm going to stand, which I encourage you to have a higher height if you're standing. If I stand at this, I'm going to be bending over, and it's going to be really hard on my back and neck. So I'm not going to do that too often. However, I'm sitting on a stool right now, a small, short stool, and that would work ideally for this height. I have another stool that I could use, and it's just a little bit higher, and it would work okay. A chair, I think, is going to be not quite work as well, but that's kind of what I have to work with right now. So here it is. You might have something better, and I hope that you do. Or even if it's your dining room table, remember, create that space that's all for you and that you can leave set up. So I know that no one is going to go into this space. My daughters will try. They'll leave their toys and their art all over it. They'll want to sit at it. They have their own much nicer, great art space, but yeah, they'll think this one is pretty cool. Okay, so our assignment for the coming week, now it's to fill this space with our art supplies. And again, I have so many art supplies, I could fill a whole room. However, what I'm going to use in this space are the things that matter to me, the things that I'm going to use, the things that I think I'm going to use. So I know I use pencils and erasers. I also use colored pencils and what else? Watercolor. I don't use acrylic a lot right now. Doesn't mean I won't, I will, but for right now, I'm only gonna put in this space what I'm gonna use on a daily or weekly basis. Okay, so this week, again, our task, going back to last week's task, is to think about what do you need in this space? What kind of supplies do you need as you get started? If you're a writer, you might wanna have special pens and maybe you need a typewriter, maybe you type. I'm going to encourage you not to keep your computer in this area because I think computers can distract us from just getting down to that kind of raw work that we do. So I like to type on my computer and write stories on my computer, but I know if I go to my computer, I'm probably going to spend a couple of hours on emails. So not a good idea for my space here. I want to have that kind of work separate, and I want this space to be really for when I want to sit down and create, when I want to get away from my tech world and create something for me. Okay, so this week again, this was last week's goals. This week again, we are going to think about what are those things that we want to fill that space with and go and gather. So go and gather this week. Think storage containers, things that we can put our brushes in, our pencils in, our pens, our paper, whatever it might be. I love to have things that are clear and glass so I can see through them. So I'm gathering glass containers, glass jars. This one's a little small, but I've got different sizes. What I would really like is containers this size, but you can see any mason jar I have this size. My kids have filled up with cool water beads and sensory kind of stuff. So any free jar we have, they take. So I might even have something like this in my space because I love sometimes to get distracted by fun and colorful things. And that can help me really get imagining too as I'm working. By the way, this week I'm working on doing a series with a company called the Storybook Company. And I'm doing daily seminars over Zoom about creating a children's book. And so it's really been very phenomenal, and it's been a great week. So watch for those free things out there in the world on art making and writing and being creative. Another thing, we just had the holidays. Some of you might have received some holiday tins or have some old tins laying around. Work great for art supplies. This one happens to have, it's called Fun, it's a mystery fun day box where we write things here at home that we can do when we're bored. I don't get bored, but my kids do. And so we write all of these things. And so when they draw one of these out of the tin, then that's what they have to do. And it's a great way for them to think about all their toys that they don't play with, because there's usually a slip in there for all the toys they've forgotten about. Okay, so go and gather. Come back here next week with your space started to be created. And then also a resident came up with a wonderful idea. She suggested we have a studio art tour. And so we're gonna have a studio art tour through the coming weeks over our video here. And so we'll have people send pictures and we will share the makings of our studio. Okay, have a great week. See you soon.